Hello everybody, Kaito here, and today I will give you guys a battle tutorial. No, not that one. A real one. Because Trials of Mana is a game which is not telling you everything. Beware, there could be spoilers in it, so play the game first before you watch it. So let's have a look at the basics first. First of all, I have set my controls on a piece for a bit differently. Normally you would do weak attacks with the circle button, but I have set my weak attack on the square button because it's easier for me. I would recommend you that you set your controls that you don't have any problems in battle and that it's easy for you to perform. For this tutorial, we will just use the base abilities of the character and classes and no equipped abilities. Alright, let's enter a battle, right? So before you can fight, you need to go in a specific boundary because enemies are bound in an area and they cannot leave this area, and you cannot attack the enemies if you are not in the area, or in short, if the battle hasn't started, you cannot fight the enemies and you cannot hurt them. Except for spells and skills. Okay, the battle begins and now you can finally fight. Your basic attacks are a weak attack and a strong attack. You all know that from the tutorial probably, but what you probably not know, or maybe you know it because of a loading screen information, you can do several combos which are doing different things. Another thing the game is not telling you is that your first weak attack will be different if you run at the enemy. Still, this counts as your first weak attack and can result in a combo attack. So if you do a weak attack followed by a strong attack, you can do a knockback attack, which means that the enemy is stunned for some seconds. However, this is not always working. Some enemies are easier to knock back and some are harder to knock back. Some enemies needs more knockback attacks to knock them back. Well, if you do two weak attacks and then a strong attack, you will do a surround attack, which is attacking more enemies at the same time. Helpful if you are surrounded, but beware, the enemies can still attack you. This surround attack is not knocking back the enemies, so it could happen that you get attacked by the surrounded enemies and would get heavy damage. All the things I'm telling you here are working for every character, but some characters are faster and some are slower. Compared to the original, they all got relatively fast, especially you, Charlotte. Alright, you know now what the game tells you from the battle tutorial and some basics what the game is not directly telling you. Of course there's more! If you have unlocked the first class change, you will notice that you get another combo. But what does that combo do? At the very beginning, you can do 3 weak attacks in a combo. Now with class 2, you can do 3 weak attacks and a new combo if you use the 3 weak attacks and then a strong attack. You also have now 4 weak attacks as a combo. But the question is, what does the next combo do? Overall, it is a dash attack. You dash forward while damaging the enemies in your way. Depending on your character, the hitbox of the attack is having a higher range. But what does it do directly? There is a way to knock back enemies with it. But I will come to that point later because this belongs to the point enemy behavior. However, this attack is pretty good for dodging too. If you are in a struggle with several enemies and they are all doing an area attack, you could use this combo for damage the enemy and also escaping their area attack. With class 3 you will get another combo. You can now do 4 weak attacks and a strong attack to do a new combo. This combo attack is attacking the enemy with a lot of hits, but this only goes for Hawkeye, Reese and Kevin. Duran, Angela and Charlotte is doing a very strong single strike attack, which also can knock back the enemy. But watch out when you use these attacks, you can still get attacked. And class 4 is not giving you a new combo attack, so you need to stick with the ones you are having. One last thing about combos. If you are in the middle of a combo where the output came from a strong attack, you cannot dodge. Keep that in mind. If you only use weak attacks, you can dodge as much as you want. Class strikes are also an important thing in your battle. Depending on which class you have picked, the class strike will change. However, you can only have an area class strike or a single target class strike. In my opinion, the area class strikes are much more effective and on some points overpowered than the single target class strikes. The game is fortunately telling you if your class strike is single target or area target. Class strikes are as overpowered as they sound. Combined with some abilities, the fight is over in seconds. But for characters like Angela, I had the feeling that it doesn't have a high impact in her battle style. Because if I'm not misinformed, the class strikes are based on physical attack or the strength of the character. And characters like Angela should more focus on magic, so for these characters the magic skills from the class are more important than the class strikes. Now for the magic in battle. I have already told you in my review that there are 3 different types of magic: attack magic, support magic and healing magic. Healing magic is the only magic which can be used outside of battle. But because this is a battle tutorial, I will tell you how magic works in the battle. First of all, you can set up to 4 spells in your shortcut menu. Unfortunately, these shortcuts are also for items, so think about it what you will use. So now for the battle. When you open up the ring menu with the down button on your digital pad, your skill and magic menu will show up. So every skill and every magic is shown here, and while you are in this menu, the time is frozen and you can think as long as you like what kind of spell or skill you want to use. However, many monsters are having several weaknesses and resistances. For example, if I would use a Dark Force spell on a Dark Wizard, he would resist it. Well, he would resist every magic, but that's not the point, you know what I mean. Another possibility can happen that your enemy would absorb this spell and he gets healed. But fortunately, the game is telling you that too. There is, however, a difference. If you would use the Annihilate skill on an enemy which is having a darkness resistance, he would still die from it. Why? The Annihilate skill is instant killing the enemy if you are higher than your enemy. The opposite could work too, by the way. If an enemy is using an Annihilate skill on you and you are lower, then you could die. But what about an enemy which is absorbing Darkness Elemental normally? Yes, that one would die from the Annihilate skill too. Another thing about magic you maybe know or not, your magic becomes stronger or weaker depending on the day you are having right now. For example, if you are having a Salamander day, then all your fire magic is stronger, but your water magic is weaker. The game is showing you if your magic is stronger or not, so don't worry. Well, it is showing you that, but it is not directly explaining it to you. So let us shortly talk about support magic. Support magic is every magic which is buffing your group or debuffing your enemies. Saber magic also belongs to the support magic category. Cerise is the supporter no matter what. She can buff your group or debuff the enemies depending on your class you picked. Overall, the whole section is self-explaining. Okay, another thing the game is not telling you is the thing with Hawkeye's jutsus. Are these now magic or are these skills or what? Well, it is not magic directly in a way, but the game handles it as a magic. You are learning these skills with the luck training points, but the intellect is determining the damage, which makes jutsus basically to magic. But overall, many people would not pick the jutsus because of the damage, more for the debuffs you are dealing to your enemies. The opposite is existing too. I would call them skills. Hawkeye's ranger class is giving him trap-based skills. These skills are doing physical damage, which means the strength point is important to deal more damage. And the last point about skills and magic would be the healing magic, but I think these are self-explaining, right? I can tell you one last hint about the battle itself. You can dodge in the air! Something the game is never telling you! I mean, is that really so unimportant? Okay, now you know already a lot about the battle itself, but what about the enemy behavior? So, before the battle really begins, the enemies are starting to notice you. You can see that if the enemy is getting an exclamation mark above their head. If that happens, the battle starts and they are about to attack you. The most of the enemies are acting the same or similar. Many enemies are just starting with a normal attack and doing a long break after that. So if the enemy is approaching you, they will do mostly normal attacks. If you see that, just dodge. When enemies are trying to use special attacks or even class strikes, you can see that if you watch the enemy's movements. And yeah, some enemies are using class strikes. The sword fighters are using class strikes from Duran, the beastmen are using class strikes from Kevin, the assassins, dark ninjas and so on are using class strikes from Hawkeye, and so on. You know what I'm aiming for, right? Don't get me wrong, it is not like that the enemies are all acting the same, no. They are having a base movement and they are separated from ground to flying enemies. But still, they are having just a similar behavior, but their skills and magic are different. And yes, magic is also something the enemies can perform. Fortunately, the game is showing you with marked arrears when an enemy is doing a special attack or something. Another thing about enemy behavior. If you hit the enemy, you maybe have noticed that the enemy is struggling sometimes. If the enemy is doing that, that could be your best chance to knock them back. Not every enemy is doing that and some enemies are harder to struggle. But if you notice that, you can knock down an enemy without using a knockback attack. So always pay attention to your enemy, this could save your day. I want to mention only really short the item section. If you press up on your digital pad, you come up to your ring menu. You can set up to 12 items on that. Some of them are only healing items. Some of them are items which are doing magic damage and some are giving you an elemental saber. Overall, the description of the items are telling you what they are doing. That's the reason why I want to hold this section really short. Another thing I want to talk about is status ailments. It is like in the original. You can only have one status ailment at the same time. For example, if you are poisoned, you cannot be silenced. So if an enemy is using a silence attack on you while you are poisoned, the poison is gone. But then you are silenced. And the last thing I want to talk about are the bosses. Bosses are giving you always an intense feeling. One big struggle in your way and you somehow need to handle that. Good thing your best pal Kaito is here to explain how this works, right? Oh, what? You don't need my hints? Oh, well, screw that, I will tell you anyway. So bosses are having elemental weaknesses and resistances as well. But they are also having some sort of physical weakness as well. Well, most of them. So how do I mean that? Many bosses are having several body parts and these body parts can be attacked. However, there are mostly always a body part which is the weakness of the boss. For example, Full Metal Hugger is having legs, body and head, right? So if you hit him on the head, you are dealing more damage because this is the weakness of his body. Many bosses are like that. Another thing what you can do is some sort of knockback. It's not directly a knockback, but if you hit the enemy on the correct spots, he can be stunned for some seconds. A good opportunity to use a class strike, because while the enemy is stunned you can deal more damage as usual. Another helpful thing are the elemental sabers, because that would deal even more damage to the boss. Okay, that is everything I can tell you about the battle. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Did you know already everything I have told you? Have I forgot something? Post it in the comments below. I really hope I could help you with my experience in this game and maybe you can do something out of it. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I'm Karte from the RPG Guild. Please don't forget to subscribe so I can grow and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye and see you soon!